All right, welcome to the review segment of our show where we take a look at the newspapers. We also touch base with some of the online portals. I say good morning, welcome to my colleague Joseph Akablay.
Good morning, Mavi.
Shall I add the friend Pong?
Oh, no, Joseph is fine.
How was the weekend?
It wasn't bad. I mean, a lot of political activities. There's more today. The NDC is launching its manifesto. And so a lot happening, was more relaxed and looking forward to the political activities coming up.
All right, let's straight away go to the newspapers. I've got the Daily Graphic, the Daily Heritage, the Daily Statesman, the Times, the Observer, the Daily Dispatch, and the Final. Lots of papers today. Joseph, what do you have?
I have the Daily Guide. I also have the Gold Street Business, the Economic Times, the Custodian, and the Publisher.
Okay. All right. Let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. On the front page, here's the banner headline. Voters Register exhibition begins September 18. Exercise lasts 8 days. Nana Konadu leads NDP to December polls. Clients of collapsed fund management companies. First batch receives payment end of month. MTN takes NCA to Supreme Court. Remember, they first went to the High Court where they lost. Now they've invoked the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. The story is in the inside pages. NDC launches manifesto today. There's a story that we will get to when we settle to look at some of the details. I'll share with that with you. In the center spread, there's a news feature, mortgage sector trends and implications. But on the back page, $25 million gold refinery project nears completion. Tamale police nab suspected Tema robbers. Also another story on the back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. So from the Graphic, let's go to Joseph.
So we can start from the front page of the Daily Guide. It has this story, President incensed by Achim jibe. Details of that story on page 3. Mahama defends Achim Sakawa insults. And Nana blasts Mahama over poor jobs. And robber arrested with weapons also on the front page of the Daily Guide. So a lot of political stories there. The back page has a shot of the president about to kick the ball. I'm sure Mama will want to sign him for the football team. President reiterates government commitment to sports development is on the back page, and respects laws of the game also on the back page. An AFCON trophy stolen in Egypt. That's interesting.
Yeah. That trophy anyway, hey.
The trophy that Ghana wants to win is missing. The Gold Street Business says government targets 22.73 billion in new debt issuances and plan to develop Volta Lake underway. Also on the front page of the Gold Street Business. The Economic Times, some more business stories. BOG starts online repository trading by October 1. And government's challenge on valuation of gold royalties in a Japan royalties deal. And Ghana-Nigeria trade impasse close to ending is coming from President Akufo-Addo. And the last one for me will be the Publisher newspaper. It says EU blacklist Ghana over money laundering. And it now takes 5 weeks to clear one car from ports. That's according to the freight forwarders.
That's unacceptable. 5 weeks.
Unacceptable. And Akufo-Addo sparks anger among northern youth, also on the front page. And NPP has broken my heart. It's coming from Sukrit Safo.
Let's do the Finder newspaper, front page of the Finder. Mahama justifies amplifying ethnocentric comments. Thank you for one village, one dam policy. That's the Treponi chief saying there. Nanado calls out Mahama for promoting ethnocentrism, asks clergy, CSOs, others to condemn it. Same CSOs. Ejapa royalties transaction not suspended, according to the Ministry of Finance. Ghana-Nigeria Business Council applauds government's action. From the Finder, we go to the Daily Dispatch. Front page of the Dispatch, excerpts from Working with Rawlins's book, the 1985 exchange of Ghana and US spies, the Big Okada debate, part 2, 2020 elections, can Zanata Rawlins retain her Clote Kole seats? It is easier to sell MPP in 2020 than in 2016. That's according to Mustafa Hamid. But I'm not sure anybody was expecting him to say otherwise. He's a member of the NPP. All right, let's do the Ghanaian Times. Front page of the Times, CRI calls on government to consider opening basic schools. Bagri Dam spillage, 6 die, hundreds rendered homeless, farms submerged. Nana Akufo-Addo claimed flag bearer of NDP for 2020 polls. A Japan deal to go ahead, according to the finance minister. GIFF laments breakdown in paperless port system. That's the story in one of the papers that you reviewed,
yes,
Joseph, talking about the fact that it takes 5 weeks to clear one vehicle. Yeah. Back page of the Times, curb cycle fishing, Western Region Fishermen Council making that call. Man destroys Chief Imam's school foundation, a foundation over a 4-acre parcel of land at Ablikuma Paradise, said to belong to the office of the National Chief Imam, has allegedly been destroyed by another claimant to the land. Ghanaian Times gathered that the parcel of land had been offered to the foundation, that's the Chief Imam's foundation, by Ni Labi Mensah Stool family in 2016 for the construction of English and Arabic school complex and mosque for the people of the area. The rest of the story is on the back page. Last paper, Daily Statesman. Ayikwe says NDC has nothing good for Ghanaians. Akufo-Addo calls out NDC leader over ethnocentric comments. Transparent Ejapa transaction still on course, says Ministry of Finance. Okay, so really that's it by way of what's on the front back pages. We would get to some of the inside pages. Joseph, I see you have a paper opened.
Yes, page 6 of the publisher, that story about the ports. It says government has been asked to intervene in the sorry situation at the Tema ports, where it now takes a period of 5 weeks, 35 freaking days, the paper says, to clear a single car under the Ghana Link Unipass ICUM's trade facilitation system. Before it took over the ports, it just took 4 hours for such clearance to be done using the paperless port clearance system. And so it goes on, some officials quoted here saying that we have gone back to the situation of printing all documents. There are no service level agreements with which one can define how long clearance process is supposed to take. It has become normal to clear vehicles within a 5-week window, which is totally unacceptable. And so it goes on to say that the GIFF pointed out further that under the Ghana Link system, the call center has virtually become non-productive as agents move from the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority towers to the customs long room and to Nick Hotel in search of solutions to problems. So this cannot be normal, and this report goes on to say. And so we had a system that was being brought in, and when it was being introduced, concerns were raised about the relevance of it, and the argument was made that it was to make things easier. And the point was advanced then that, I mean, we already had a paperless system that was quite effective, and so it's quite worrying to hear from people who are involved in the sector say that it actually now taking 5 weeks to clear one car from the port. And you can imagine how it affects businesses and the loss of revenue, obviously, because people will not be getting their goods quickly onto the market to sell them, and so it affects a whole chain of productivity within the sector. And I think this is one story that we need to obviously pay attention to and demand some answers and more or less an assessment of the system that we've implemented so far, because if this is the situation, then we are at best to go back to the system we had previously. Absolutely.
Let's do page 13 of the Daily Graphic. There's a story. This is the gender column. Over 60% vulnerable, poor in Greater Accra region, homeless. That's according to a survey. It says data collected by the Ghana National Household Registry has indicated that over 60% of vulnerable and poor persons in the Greater Accra region are homeless. The survey indicated that the homeless, together with their children, numbered 50,266. Majority of the vulnerable individuals slept in kiosks, markets, uncompleted structures, and on the streets. Other sleeping points are bus and lorry stations, chop bars, drinking spots, and beaches, with a very few of them sleeping in compound houses, mostly in overcrowded rooms. According to the coordinator, Dr. Prosper Larry, he said at a data dissemination conference in Accra that the individuals were exposed to national hazards. I think we've told several stories of some of these homeless persons. Sometimes we don't we don't draw our minds to the fact that not everybody has a home. Not everybody is sleeping in a comfortable bed in a home, or even waking up this morning to use a bathroom and a toilet, a decent bathroom and a toilet. But I wonder what can be done with this exposure, because this is something that we know, except that we talk about the lack of data. Now we have a survey, we have a proper data. What can be done about it, particularly at this time when the parties all want our votes? We need them to give answers to some of these things.
I think generally we've not done very well with the social support system. And I mean, the housing deficit has always been there, we know it. But the point again is that these are people who are actually poor. And so it's not just about not having homes, they're actually people who are struggling to fend for themselves. And so, I mean, the next stage of policy discussions should obviously factor in real social intervention programs that can address these concerns. A lot of the social intervention programs that have been rolled out over the years has unfortunately become either has corruption involved in it, like we had with the Jida and the SADA issues, or has simply not changed things the way we expect it to be. And I think it's very unfortunate. Sometimes when you get to circle late in the night, you're coming from town. Mostly during the day, you don't see that every spot where you walk comfortably are actually people's resting points. You just have to pass at dawn to see it. It's a very sorry state.
Yeah, and if you read the story further, it talks about the fact that the coronavirus pandemic has even made the situation worse, because where they earn a little from now, they're not earning, as much. So it's making the situation really, really worse. And the whole idea of, bringing the survey, according to the coordinator, is to get social intervention programs, like you said. But how many of these programs targeted at these persons actually reach them?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so you can further read the story in the Daily Graphic newspaper. Any other stories of interest?
I think the NDC story, unfortunately, is not in the papers that I have.
Oh, the manifesto launch. There's a headline on the front page of the Daily Graphic. It takes us to page 20, but they're not highlighting on it as much in terms of the other papers. I guess because it hasn't happened.
Well,
could it be because it hasn't happened? But the fact that it's going to happen is also big. Yes.
I mean, this is the party most likely to take over government, and so depending on how the votes go, obviously, if you compare them to the other parties, and so
it's either MPP or NDC.
And so their solutions are very relevant to any discussion. And I saw a statement from Mr. Mahama's office explaining why he wants to come back. He said people keep asking either silently. I'm sure you've asked that question before. So you either ask in your head or you ask it verbally why he wants to come back.
I'm not sure I've asked that question.
Because he says he's been there, he's been vice president, he's been president, and so he's sure people would ask why he wants to come back. And the answer is...
But it's good that he's addressing it, because people ask, what's the answer?
He says the answer is that, there is a social infrastructure deficit, a huge one. And he believes he knows how to solve that problem because he was actually solving it already. And knowing that his opponent does not know how to solve it, it is his moral responsibility to come back and solve that particular problem. Yeah. So it gives you a sense of which direction the NDC's manifesto will be taking.
So another thing he says, for instance, is the fact that the decision was not easy. And sometimes people think that, he just jumped on it. It wasn't an easy decision to make. But the NDC also talks about the fact that they've done a lot of... So they say this is the People's Manifesto.
Yeah.
And what they explain is that they've talked to the people over a 3-month period. So what they are presenting is what the people collectively in different constituencies have said they want, and that's what's in the manifesto. We've heard some of them. We've heard the Okada. We've heard the former president, talk about Okada and the assemblyman that he's going to pay. I wonder how many other promises in the different sectors.
I think if those two promises are anything to go by, you get a sense that the NDC will be seeking to roll out programs or announce programs that has the capacity to reach a lot of people. And so, obviously it means a lot of votes too.
All right, but we still ask the question, are these just promises to get the people's votes? We asked for issues. We called for us to have something to talk about. Now they're giving us something to talk about, but are these things realistic? Are these things, or will these things go a long way to help us, help the economy, improve the economy?
And we should be looking at the promises in terms of what problem it seeks to solve, and whether it's actually a genuine problem or it's a case of getting the votes. And so that is how the conversation should be shaped. But I want to read this to you. It says, I know how to do it. Part of it I've already accomplished. And since I know how to do it, and the current government doesn't, I feel I have the moral duty to ask for a second term. This is not about me. It's about Ghana and Ghanaians.
You know what? I like this statement. I like this statement. I think we have come a long way and we have improved. I like the fact that somebody explains why they're doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate it. All right, so we will be bringing you, of course, extensive coverage and conversations around the manifesto launch, which is later today. You know, we've got the best team assembled here at JoyNews, so trust our coverage. Ahead of that, we've got a conversation on the AM show right after sports. Let's do, before we go to myjoyonline.com, page 3 of the Ghanaian Times, some crime-related stories. This page is noted for these stories. But there's one that's of interest. Fake national security operative grabbed. So this is a guy who is not a national security operative, but carries himself as such. And he makes money out of people. A bit of what the paper is reporting. Personnel of the Revenue Assets and Border Protection Units of the Office of the President on Friday arrested Prince Kafui Wosoye, a man with no fixed address, suspected to be a fake national security operative in Sogakofa in the Volta region. The suspect allegedly posed as a representative of the president for several months and succeeded in taking huge sums of money from unsuspecting members of the public with false job offers. He was also said to have stopped vehicles and carried out searches on them on highways in various parts of the country and demanded money from the occupants. You can imagine the number of people who paid, perhaps all the vehicles that he stopped. So a leader of the team that arrested him disclosed these to the Ghanaian Times, and the suspect was nabbed with assistance from the Sogakofa police when he turned up at the Ghana Revenue Authority and the Ghana Immigration Service barriers in the town to introduce himself as an appointee of the president assigned to deal with, and that's in quotes, customs and immigration officers at their duty posts. The suspects resisted arrest, injured one policeman, and left the office bleeding profusely before he was finally handcuffed. That's a very brave man right there. There's more to the story, including his picture. It's still a suspected case. So you can take a look at the paper and look at his picture. If you think you have some information, you can contact the police now that he's been arrested. But how many of these people go around carrying themselves as national security operatives and we can't even ask them anything?
We've seen that happen a lot, even during the voter registration exercise. I mean, where someone was pointing a gun at an armed military man as well as a police officer. We also remember the Neil Antivanderpoy story where he said, according to him, 2 of the individuals are persons who claim to be national security operatives. I think we need to, the national security architecture, it's not supposed to, you're not supposed to be people who walk around, do the work that the police people and the others do. They're supposed to be persons who are into intelligence gathering, and the art is to be discreet, but we see this happen a lot. I mean, it's good the police have arrested this individual. It's a suspected case, but hopefully they follow through and do the investigation and we see what is actually happening, because this may be a suspected case, but what we actually know is that people are doing wrong things in the name of the National Security Secretariat, and it's something that they must deal with.
Absolutely, and in the name of the president as well, office of the president.
It says he's an appointee to be in charge of what custom officers, to be monitoring customs.
Yes.
What kind of appointment?
and they can be so bold. Yeah. Sometimes, though, I think the suspicion is where they're getting their backing from. Because if you look at the case that you mentioned in terms of the Ashanti region case where this guy with a gun, who threatened to shoot, you want to also look at how speedily we resolve these issues, lawfully. But if nothing happens and the thing is still hanging, then you know that he's not just any kind of guy. He's not just going around claiming to be national security operative.
Has the power.
Exactly. Yeah, he's standing on something, and that's very scary. And it also discourages the police itself, because if they arrest and nothing can happen to this guy because he has some heavy backing or political backing, then will they do it the next time? Will they?
Because we can imagine what would have happened if it's actually a police officer or a military man doing what he was seen doing. And that tells you, and he was actually filming them, saying that he's going to show their faces to his bosses to show what they are doing. And I mean,
yeah. Well, so that's there are other crime stories in the papers, by the way. Let's spend just unless there's something else you want to touch on. Otherwise, let's do myjoyonline.com. Let's look at what's on our page, myjoyonline.com. 6 positive COVID-19 cases recorded at Kotoka International Airport, according to Deputy Health Minister Dr. Okoboy, who was on the lockdown with MFAPAL yesterday. From receptionist to reporter, the set Kwame Boateng's story. If you missed it on television during our 6 a.m. news, well, you can just go to MyJoyNews and read details of the story. It would inspire you. It would absolutely inspire you. Apologize to Achim Sakawa Mafia comments. Baumia tells Mahama Kufuado has lost rights to complain about name calling. Mahama on Achim Sakawa Mafia comments. My political journey is not for personal recognition. Joseph Akable, that's your answer right there. Photos of Treponi. So you see former President Mahama justifying why he wants to run again. You see former, the former First Lady, Konedo Ajima-Rawlings, also justifying why she wants to be on the ballots. Photos of Treponi after downpour and spillage of the Bagre Dam. That's a ritual right there. And I guess we can say emphatically that we're helpless when it comes to the issue of the spillage.
We are told the solution is in the Pologo multi-purpose dam that is supposed to be constructed, but that is taking a lot of time. In fact, it has been on the books since the NDC time. This government has also performed some sort cutting ceremony. On radio, we had a sound of the PRO for the project saying that they are still going about it, trying to finish it quickly. So, I mean, let's see whether we'll be able to finish that to solve that problem.
How often don't you hear what you've just said?
Well,
it's like something that's been typed and printed.
Yeah.
That we hear. They just tell us because they have to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we are. It's a very sad situation, but these are livelihoods. What you see on the screen, what the distraction, livelihoods right there, and it's just totally gone. And it happens each time there is a spillage, and we just stay here and tell the story, and officials just keep singing the same tune to us. Meanwhile, farms and homes and yeah. So you can catch up with details of that on myjoyonline.com. There are other stories there though, so let's go back to the page and let's tell you the rest of the headlines there. Easy to exhibit newly compiled voters register. There are still some people who feel that the Electoral Commission may not be able to work within the time that they have before the register is presented to the political parties. Because remember that we've got timelines, these are not just timelines that you can say, oh, you are doing this at this time. It's actually prescribed. So we're still waiting to see. There are people who doubt that they can meet all these deadlines that they have. But they've announced the dates for the exhibition. It's 8 days, begins September 18. The fact that you've registered doesn't mean that on election day you find your name there. So this exercise is for you to go and check, indeed, if your name is in the register. Samira Baumia warns against voting for any other candidate but Kufuado in general elections. And no MDCE has the right to give out lands for community mining. That's a chief warning there. You can click on the story and read the details. Akable, just before we leave.
Yep.
How does today look like? I know we are all looking forward to that manifesto launch. There's a story which we gave you the headline, which is the NCA going back to the Supreme Court from the High Court. That's a big one.
It's a major issue, and MTN, it's good once they disagree. I mean, they are going through the legal process to try and have the Supreme Court set aside the High Court decision which backed the NCA's tag of MTN as a significant market player. And so that is what they are seeking to set aside. This is an area of law that is not very common here in our parts of the world, more of antitrust issues and stuff. It's not very common here, but it's good that we have such a matter and to have the Supreme Court being asked to have a bite of it. I think I look forward to the Supreme Court judgment to see how this would go.
Okay, well, significant market player, huh? Somebody will say, but if they say you're a significant market player, why are you fighting it? Well, it's got implications. It means they can touch you in many ways. So you can, if you're interested in the story, you can read on. But this is where we have to end the review. Joseph, thank you very much for doing the review with me. Coming up in sports, well, one of the things that we were all talking about just before we started the show is Djokovic dismissed from the ongoing US Open. What happened? Well, details coming up. And there's a league going on. Yesterday, I was surprised to see Germany playing. And I was like, okay, what is this whole league about? Yeah, but there's football, actually. Stay with us. We'll tell you all about it.